Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTO.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston.
Egberto
Good morning, Harris County.
Let us engage.
Good morning to the great state of
right.
Texas. Good morning to Northeast Texas, Southeast Texas, Northeast Louisiana, Northwest. What am I saying? Northwest Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana. Welcome to every nook and cranny receiving the signals from our 100,000 watt transmitter. Welcome to the world receiving our signals or our data, our info via the internet, formerly known as the ARPANET, created by who? We the people, you the people, created by people from around the world, created from the collective intellect of us all, not the billionaire. Remember that. Billionaires create nothing. Anyway, before we get started, let's go to the studio. Good morning, studio. How are you guys doing this morning?
Well, the studio says good morning to you, Egberto.
Good morning.
And we watched the debate last night, or at least I did. Jack was blissfully
TV-less. I'm TV-less.
He doesn't have a television set. So anyway, I watched the debate. A couple of things. Donald Trump should be very afraid because she called him out on several of his lies and told folks, he said, you're just going to hear a bunch of lies from this guy because that's all he does. That was first shot out of the bag. Second shot out of the bag was him telling us, I had the greatest economy the world has ever seen. There's never been anything like it in the whole world. All the history of time. I got more votes, more Republican votes than any president in the world history, in the history of the United States.
King of the world.
Well, that is not exactly true. Now, I will have to say she made a couple of clerical errors on this. The immunity situation with the Supreme Court, she said, and this is kind of a fear tactic, and it scares people, and it should. She said that they have given him blanket immunity on everything. That is not entirely so. They gave him immunity on official presidential duties, but not criminal activity. And they sent it back down to the court. They didn't dismiss it. So, okay, we'll give her somewhat of a pass on that, but she wasn't entirely accurate on that statement. He was not accurate on almost any statement except that, the world was afraid of him when he was president. Nobody was invading anybody because they were so afraid of him, which is probably true because he is a crazy man and he has the codes to the nuclear bombs. So he was accurate there in saying that, people were afraid, these foreign leaders were afraid of him and such. So I think that there was some accuracy in what he said. Generally, it was, I'm blowing my horn. You guys are so bad. It's terrible, terrible, terrible. You guys have just really ruined this country, et cetera, et cetera. And in closing statements, Kamala said, I want to address the needs of the American people in the middle class, which middle income. I want to improve your life. I want you to help get a life. His closing statement was how bad everything was that she had done and how terrible she was. So he didn't say what he was going to do. He says, I'm just going to take this closing statement here and badmouth the competition. she said, and not anything she said in her closing statement was bad mouthing the competition. It was, let's turn the page. Let's get away from all this. Let's start over. Let's get a new lease on life. So I think, and I hope that people were listening to this and thinking, she has something going for her, and he does not. I mean, standing up there blaming everybody but you, everybody but your policies, failed COVID policies, etc. And the line, just the list is very long. Her failures, sure, she's had some. We all have. But she did address the needs of the American people. The middle income folks are being crushed to death, saying, okay, we're going to help you get out of this. So I think if you were listening, the winners, losers, I don't pick which one. I think the American people will win with her, and I think she will win with the American people. And this guy, he's going off on his, talking about eating dogs. I mean, immigrants eating dogs in the neighborhoods. And her facial expressions were priceless, like, what? Are you kidding me? Anyway, that's all I've got to say this morning in my opening rap. Jack, what you got? You got a darn near a full page of wisdom there.
Yeah. Good morning, Egberto. How are you?
Good morning, Jack. How are you doing? I can't wait to hear your word of wisdom. We just heard the word of wisdom from Brother Howard, and now we hear the word of wisdom from Jack Van Bebba.
Here's some fuel for the fire. Feminine voters' power is rising in the wake of the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. The attack on women's reproductive rights will fuel a backlash of women voters to stand up for their rights, get registered to vote, then go cast that vote to get rid of these Republican bums that are oppressing and attempting to subjugate women for what? The evangelical vote. All that.
Those evil
to get a
evangelicals.
vote. So, anyway, that's it.
As usual, you both nailed it. Look, let me tell you something, guys. Yeah, I watched the debate. And not only did I watch the debate, I live streamed the debate. And while the debate was going on, we had commentaries in our chat. It was wonderful. And because, again, it was the first time we did it. We tried this real-time thing where we had, I didn't play the sound because I wasn't sure of the copyright issues, even though every station got rights to actually air the debate. I didn't have any specific license, so I just put the screen into my screen and turned the volume down. And one of our callers had a smart thing that says just put the YouTube thing for each person listening. They gave them a link so they could listen to the YouTube version of AVC News underneath our chat. So it worked out like a champ. And we had great commentary in real time as the debate was going on. Now, let me tell you guys, Donald Trump showed exactly who he is. Those of us who have given up on him years ago, who never voted for him or who never voted for him the second time because we realized that he was nothing but a facade on top of a bastion, a facade on top of a framework of immorality, misogyny, xenophobia. I mean, he is just there's a facade on top of just a nasty thing underneath that. We all see that. Now, what Kamala did last night was to prove that, the facade is really thin. There's not a whole lot of depth in that skin. And it was so easy to bust that facade, to put a slice in that facade that simply exploded. It was so easy for her to do. I'll be honest, I was shocked at how bad. I was shocked at how unhinged. I was shocked at how he looked like a madman. And anybody voting for him saying, well, suppose this guy is in a bad mood and something happens across the ocean, what is his response going to be to make things worse? I mean, there isn't a responsible way that this guy acts. But you know what? We got a glimpse of that after he lost the election in 2020, because we saw that he would do things no other president, no other politician would do. He is the first guy to try an insurrection in the fashion in which it was done. He's the first guy that openly brought folks and say, hey, get ready to act. The first guy that says, let these guys into our rally with AR-15s. You don't need the magnetometer here. It is amazing. That is what we got. And we know what we have now. Again, most of us that didn't support this guy knew it. The question was how much of America who call themselves MAGA would see it. Now, look, there are those who, because of stubbornness, there are those who, because of they just can't accept that they have decided to tie themselves on to a mad, misogynistic, xenophobic, homophobic, sexist, and every one of those descriptions are perfect. Insurrectionist. They've tied themselves to this guy. The question is, when do you jump ship to ensure that the country understands never again, so that the next person that follows Trump, be it J.D. Vance or somebody else, realize, oh my God, that type of a Trump doesn't get you anywhere. You can't win in that scenario. No te puedes ganar. So whomever you are, if you're still supporting what we saw there, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Now, there are two things that I think Kamala could have done better for those who have that false impression of Donald Trump. She started it when she said, we had to clean up your mess. I wish she had expanded on what cleaning up your mess meant, because handed over to the Biden administration was a country in free fall, a country where we had a pandemic that shouldn't have been. That's one area, and I'll discuss that further. The second thing I wish she had done is when he brought in tariff and millions of dollars of tariff that she had, I don't know, it probably is going to be 80, 90 million people watching. I don't know what the final number is going to be. That was the time to educate people on tariffs, because it is extraordinarily important that people understand who pays for tariffs, not the other countries. But we'll get into that in a little bit. John is on the line, so I'll go ahead and take Johnny, and then we'll take it on the other side. Brother from another mother, my dear old mayor of politics done right, Johnny, talk to me.
Yeah, I'm still alive. I have not keeled over from shock from last night's so-called debate. The one thing that stood out to me looking at Donald Trump, the way he was hunched over, that immediately brought to mind Richard Nixon. These guys, these Republicans, these old white guy Republicans, when they get their back up against the wall, he hunches over, and I just wanted to knock his block off. You, Richard Nixon, you. That's what he reminded me of, that facial expression of his. And when Kamala Harris brought up his wealth, where he started in life, and several other times he did this, his facial expression changes to that sheepish grin of his, where the body language tells you all you need to know. He reveals that he knows what's going on. He is competent. He's both criminal and competent, and that's why he needs to go to criminal trial. There's no excuse. He cannot say that he's demented or he's forgot. He can't do that Ronald Reagan crap about I didn't know. You know exactly what's going on. And by the way, She dropped the ball, too. I agree with you. She should have been very specific. There's a whole list of things she could have listed off real quick and rapid fire, like the fact that he had law enforcement show up at the airport and steal protective gear during COVID that the California taxpayers paid for. That was their property, and he took it. And his son-in-law said, "What gear? That's ours." All kinds of things like that she should have brought up, and she didn't do it. And finally, she has really pissed me off when in her closing statement she said she wants to be the president of all the people. That is a lie, because she denied me. She spit in my eye when she talked about health care. She didn't say that universal health care is what we need. And Donald Trump, ironically, he was skirting around it. I was pulling my hair out. Oh, my God. God help her. She had better win by a wide margin. Egberto, she had better win by a wide margin without the progressive vote, because she's not getting my vote. She had better win by a wide margin.
Well, let me just say this, Johnny. Again, and this is mano a mano with respect. When you're running for president of the country with a right wing designed to cut every piece of word that you say, and where the entire population is not yet educated. Let me give a good example. She was for Medicare for all. Now she doesn't talk about being for Medicare for all. But let me give a little defense structure there. We have to do the work for Medicare for all, because let me give an example. They will go out. Vermont attempted to pass Medicare for all, and simply because of how it was framed, they didn't pass it. Let me give an example of what I mean by this. They were talking about a tax increase to provide Medicare for all. So the average person, let's say, is going to pay $1,000 or $1,500 more in taxes per year in Vermont. Oh, that's a humongous tax increase. But what they don't tell you is that same person will no longer have to pay $6,000 to a private insurer. America has not yet grasped those realities. In other words, America has not yet grasped the reality that if we have Medicare for all, your taxes may go up by $3,000-$4,000 a year. But it doesn't grasp that means you won't have to pay $8,000 or $10,000 a year to insurance company. You won't have to have deductibles. You won't have to have co-pays. All of that is gone. So therefore, you save a lot of money, because we in America have not educated the population as to how these things work. We get Kamala Harris having to be careful in the way she talks about universal health care, etc. The one cue that she told you as a progressive, my brother Johnny, and this is what I want folks to get this. There are cues in people's wordiology. And when she says, my values has not changed, that is the cue every progressive should hear. In other words, it's saying, I am saying these things because this is what I must say. This is the level of understanding of the people. But my values haven't changed. Look at my values. I will try to attain my values in the prose that I can use. So, Johnny, that is what I have to tell you, my brother. Let's all make sure we go out there and do the work. I want Medicare for all. I intend to get Medicare for all in my lifetime. Okay. And the way we are going to get it is we have to do the work. It's not Kamala that's going to do the work. It's not Bernie that's going to do the work. It is you and me and the millions of Americans that are progressive and that are winning over more people to the progressive values that's going to do that work. Go ahead, my dear brother.
I will agree with you that we have to educate more people, and that includes Kamala Harris. I have to disagree with you there. She was talking about expanding or improving the private for-profit sector, private insurance companies. No, she should be talking like that.
I want to interrupt you again, brother. I want to interrupt you again because I wrote a blog on that about 10 years ago. When let's say it was 2009, 2010 that I wrote the blog on this. Here's the deal. I said in that blog that I want him to go ahead and I wanted to go ahead and expand on let a private insurance company do X, Y, and Z. And in the middle of that, have something called that public option. Because what happens is mathematics is going to reign, right? When you have an insurance company that's a public insurance company, okay? And then you have all the private other insurance companies. The public one doesn't have to pay executives. It doesn't have to pay advertising. It doesn't have to pay all this other stuff. And it's going to be so much more efficient and less expensive that without saying we're getting rid of the profiteers, the private insurance companies, they'll die on the vine. I mean, in America, unfortunately, until we educate folks, those are the kinds of scenarios we got to go through.
Okay, before I hang up, I get what you just said. I understand that. But if you go back and listen to that debate when she did her statement, she did not explore the private option. She was talking about maintaining the status quo but improving on it. She did not articulate the way you did, and that's what she needs to do. That's why I say to you, we have to educate her and her campaign people. That's all I got to say.
And I am with you. We got a lot of educating to do. And you know, brother, this is why you support this station, because this is a platform where we can do this. So thank you, my brother. You have a good one. All right. With you too, brother. Let's go to Brother Patrick and Diggs BTW1. What's up is what you say. Welcome to Politics Done Right on the Net. Hey, Patrick, how you doing, my dear brother? By the way, Patrick, was it you who sent me that thing about, I think, was it the dogs and stuff that you sent me yesterday?
Dogs? No.
You sent me an article yesterday, I think. 2 articles, I think. Two links, right?
Yeah, I sent you two articles, and the email was entitled for Brian. And,
that's right. Yeah.
Article. Yeah, one of the articles was titled that even though the recent shooter from Appalachia, the 14-year-old.
Yes. Yes.
Even though he was threatening, and the reason why he went out, the anger he had in his heart, was for binary individuals. So what I wanted to make a point of was not only was this kid given an AR-14 at the age of 14, AR-15, excuse me, at the age of 14, something was probably happening in his home where he was fed so much anger and hatred that this kid picked up this gun and went hunting for them. And if it wasn't for the way we're speaking about trans or non-binary people, this wouldn't have happened. And when it did happen, the right is constantly saying that the left is politicizing these shootings by trying to control them and diminish them. But I don't see how not only stoking the anger that created this mass shooting, they on top of it double down and say that he was a trans person himself. You still go back and Google. The only thing the last trans shooter I can find was from the middle of 2023, and I went long yesterday, and I'm not trying to go long today. But the population is somewhere around 2%, and the shootings is under 1%. So even though these people are being demonized and attacked, they're still much less likely to do violence towards anybody else. But if we continue this, more people are going to get hurt.
Look, let me tell you, that is the goal of the right, my dear brother. The goal of the right is simply to have everybody constantly looking over their shoulders, to have everybody in a state of panic, to have everybody in a state of fear. Because under that scenario, you can get minority rule. You can get a strong man. You can get people that they sell you gold because the dollar is going to crash. They sell you MREs because, the food supply is going to be in trouble. They sell you guns because you need to protect yourself. They sell you bullets and ammunition. You need to make sure that your cellar is full with, look. What is so sad is that this isn't even about ideology. This isn't. They use people's false ideology to make a dollar. That is why they're selling freedom generators and freedom bullets and freedom gold. I mean, it's all a manipulation. That is why Trump is going into Bitcoin now, or I should say cryptocurrency, where they're ripping their own off. That is, I mean, it's a grift. That is why Trump is selling cards with his persona on it. That is why he has Truth Social that creates nothing, makes nothing, probably has income of under $1 million and somehow is worth billions of dollars in appreciation, which is one of the reasons I say the stock market and the capitalist system is a fraud. Because that when you have Exxon worth less than a company that has no assets. Look, I'm using that as an example. I mean, so that is where we're at, Patrick. That is where we're at. Anything else before I go into my my thing about us rebuilding the country?
Yeah, I'd like to make one more point, and that is that information I sent you is very easy to find. CNN did their best to clarify it, and there's so much intention to produce this information, and there's so little desire to find the right information. Brian, after all this was cleared up, was still under the impression that this person was a trans shooter.
Yeah,
it shows the ability of people to do research.
Well, look, let me. My first initial impression on things is to give people a pass, and let me explain what I mean. Americans work very hard. They're tired. And then they're if Fox News was their news channel of choice, or even, let's say, ABC 13 here in Houston, right? If you watch ABC 13 in Houston and you see crime has a hue. Crime looks a certain way. Poverty has a hue. It looks a certain way. If you listen to Fox News, the thing that's attacking the country now is immigration, things at the border. But ironically, if you get up and go to work every day, you don't see a whole lot of immigrants running across the streets in Chicago, in Houston, in Miami, or whatever. Yeah, you have undocumented workers here. Hey, guess what? You have some undocumented workers here from Canada as well, But anyhow, and from Hungary as well, But you don't see all these things, right? So, but you watch these channels and they create your reality, your second reality. They're all complicit in creating your second reality. And then you get the behaviors like what you get from, let's say, our brother Brian and others who are completely misled. And our job, to put it bluntly, Patrick, is to take that away from the corporatocracy. Because remember, these entities do what they do. These stations promote what corporations know has to be done to keep a confused population so that we don't go after what's ours. And again, that's the cycle and as I explained to Johnny as well, we have to break it. It's not going to be done for us. There is profit in keeping us scared. There is profit in making people remain sexist, racist, and homophobic. There is profit in keeping people split. The one thing that she said yesterday that I really love when she says, let's do this stuff together. Let's not talk about divisions. Let's do what's necessary to bring us together. But first, you got to get to some truth. Anything else, Patrick, before we move on?
No, I agree. I agree with everything. Thank you very much for taking the time to read my article. And yes, it does seem like there's a political group that has no strategy outside of anger.
And we need to set up some coffee, brother. But we'll talk.
Yep.
All right, take care, buddy. Anyway, look, there are two things I want to tackle that I think should have been done by Kamala. By the way, first of all, Kamala did a great job yesterday. She put out, everybody keeps saying, what's her policy? What's her policy? She hasn't gotten down on her policy. And it's a silly statement. The next person I hear about policy, I'm going to say, let's compare the policy that Donald Trump put out and the policy that Kamala Harris put out. Kamala Harris put out specific economic policies, not just yesterday, constantly. Child care, constantly. What she's doing for small business, constantly. What she's going to do for a person just having a child, constantly. What is she going to do for housing costs, constantly. What she put those things out, and still you have many in the mainstream media echoing the same crap. People need to know her a little better. What are her policies? The only policy Donald Trump put out there is to say, I am going to maybe start with a 10% tariff or a 20% tariff. And I need to explain. So first of all, I'm going to leave the economy first and go to the tariffs. For all of you that are listening, MAGA or otherwise, a tariff is a sales tax on you. It is no different than the tax every European country charges, the ad valorem tax every European country charges on all goods. When Donald Trump, as soon as Donald Trump says he's going to charge China and Europe all these taxes, the first thing you should have said is that lost you the presidency. The first thing when Donald Trump says China is going to pay the tariff, Europe is going to pay the tariff, Asia is going to pay the tariff, meaning countries in Asia, the countries in Europe are going to pay the tariff. The first thing you should say is, if you believe that, brother Trump, it shows that you are uneducated. You do not understand economics. My brothers and my sisters listening to my voice, a tariff is designed inflation. A tariff is inflation. What is inflation? A tariff is the increase in price of a product that comes from another country, so that you will say, this price has gone up so much that I will try to find a similar product made here in America. Remember that. That's the reason for having these tariffs. These tariffs are there to increase the price of products made overseas to you, so that hopefully you would make the choice and not buy that product from that foreign country, and instead raise the price high enough that the American company can undercut that price and you revitalize that industry in your country. That's all a tariff is. Yeah, they also use it to make money for the federal coffers, etc. But the people who pays for the tariff or the tariffs are the American people. So therefore, if you bought a t-shirt that used to cost $10, a 10% tariff means it now costs $11. If you buy a car that used to cost $40,000, you will now pay $4,000 more. And Trump says for most other countries, you want 20%. So a $40,000 car will now cost you $48,000. You pay, not China, not Vietnam, not Germany, not the UK. You pay. And when the price of a product goes up, it is called inflation. Kamala last night, I wish she had spent 30 seconds in telling the American people when she had the voice of 80 million or more people there that fact. And I hope the moderators who extensively asked them about the tariffs would have explicitly told the American people a tariff is a definition of created inflation, of purposely created inflation with the expectation that you will buy an American product. But here is the caveat, people. You will not be able to buy the American product because your corporations, our corporations, in order to make more money, in order to enrich themselves, they took jobs away from Americans. They closed the shops in North Carolina, South Carolina, the manufacturing in these states. They shipped them to China, left next to nothing in America, and then had the manufacturing overseas. So what Donald Trump is telling you is, we don't have the manufacturing here. We're going to put the tariffs on products. When you get the products at a higher price, remember, the purpose of having the tariff is so that you will buy American products instead of buying the products come from overseas. It's a voluntary choice that they're making. They're saying you are going to make that voluntary choice to buy American because the tariff has made the foreign product too expensive. But there ain't no domestic product to buy. There's no American product to buy because the corporations have outsourced all the factories. What did the Biden administration do? And this is where I tell you, my dear brothers and sisters, why Kamala should have said we had to clean up your mess and the mess of others. She should have said that, and what we did with the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, what we did is we said, we know that manufacturing isn't here in the United States, but we are incentivizing bringing back manufacturing to the United States. So whereas chips are made mostly in Taiwan, we're bringing those back to be made here in the United States. That is what the IRA did. We're bringing back incentives to create factories here in the United States. That's what the IRA did. Concrete plans. I will extend on these plans to make sure these things occur here. Not the platitudes that you got from Donald Trump of having no policy, but first of all, the Biden-Harris administration did have policies, executed these policies successfully. And what she brought in new policies for creating a home infrastructure. These are policies, people. Don't let the mainstream media fool you like, well, they don't really know who Kamala is. She doesn't have the policies. The policies are explicit. If they choose to listen to the policies as opposed to mimicking or parroting the right-wing machine, the right wing of evil that lies to you. And notice I said evil specifically because the type of lies that these folks tell cause problems. You know what really is the biggest problem? Believing the lies that you're telling. And guess what caught Trump last night? He actually believed the lies that was built, the framework of lies that was built around him. He believed it, he used it, and he looked like a fool as he said, oh, these immigrants are eating cats and dogs. Oh, these immigrants are creating crimes. It's not true, verifiable, and now he looks like what he is. Anyway, let's go to Moses. Come on in, Moses.
Good morning. Buenos dias.
Buenos dias, mi corazón. ¿Cómo estás? Talk to me, my sister.
Oh my. There is a God and he's not a joke. Now, let me start saying, the bounds of a debate as this limit the scope of discussion of each topic. Kamala could not have expanded because his 2 minutes rule was still, she could not have expanded, neither of them, because of the bounds of such a debate. Now, number 2, the judge and the convict, Harris, put on her judge's robe and adjudicated the case of Donald Trump and his treasonous crimes against the United States of America before the all Americans and the whole world. The American people are the jury. After last night's debate, the case is in the hands of the jury, and they will return the verdict on November the 4th. So, Miss Harris was wonderful. She was the judge. She was the leader. And she proved by every scintilla of her handling of Donald Trump in the case of his defeat, in exposing it before the whole world. My God, there is a God.
Thank you very much,
God.
Moses.
America.
Moses, I feel, let me tell you what, Moses, I feel the rebirth. People starting to feel like finally we can get from under this monster. He has his, when I talk about Trump, I want folks to realize it's not Trump. Trump doesn't have the intellect to do the things that we accuse him of doing. It's the entire machine that he represents. He is a puppet of the machine that's doing this. He doesn't have the intellect. Yesterday it was obvious. He doesn't have the intellect to do it, but it's the machine that's behind him that just used him as the persona. And I think we have to burn that to the ground, and that's what's being done slowly.
Let me say this last night. Big dog met Flash. That's it.
Thank you very much, Moses. You have a wonderful rest of your day.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Let's go to Brother Bard. Come on in, Brother Bard.
Yes, sir. Inflation is a tax on the poor. Do you know who said that?
Say that again.
Inflation is a tax on the poor.
You know what? I don't know who said it. I don't need to know who said it, but it's true.
That's right. Ronald Reagan.
It is absolutely. Yeah, that's a very true statement.
And inflation, your definition is a little off. It's caused by your government, the United States Treasury, printing money.
Okay, stop right there. Stop. Wait, whoa. Stop right there. Stop right there. Let me. Wait. Bard, stop. I want you to explain that. Bard, that is the notion that capitalists put out there. And I'm glad that you said that, because what I want you to do now is go through how the government printing money causes inflation. Tell me the mechanism that occurs that makes printing money cause inflation. Please tell me how that occurs.
Your money has to be backed by something. You can't just print it, or else.
No, sir. That's not true at all. So again, let me tell you why your money doesn't have to be backed on nothing. When Nixon took us off the gold standard, that's when our money was backed by nothing, and the dollar still remained the ultimate currency in the world. So that's a provably false statement. What I want you to see from what I'm saying here, Brother Bard, is that they have taught you to just parrot statements like the government printed money and that caused inflation, and you leave it at that. I want you to give me the mechanism in economic terms why printing money causes inflation. Let's talk about that. Tell me, how do you think that occurs?
You just said it. When Nixon took us off, the dollar was the main currency of the world.
It still is.
No longer.
No. That's not true at all. The dollar is still
trade oil for the U.S. dollar.
Sir, Russia, that doesn't say, sir.
U.S.
Sir,
dollar.
Russia doesn't trade oil for the U.S. dollar because of sanctions. The dollar is still the ultimate currency in the world, bar none. Even with BRICS coming on board, the dollar is its ultimate currency. There are 3 other currencies right now that are vying for superiority. The dollar remains the ultimate currency. And that's why every foreign country has their money in dollars. Okay, so that's a false statement. So please tell me now, how does printing money create inflation? Because that is what the right wing would like you to believe, and that's what capitalists would like you to believe. Give me the mechanism, please.
You can just see it. The money, there's been more money printed in the last 3 years than in the whole history of the United States.
It's evident. Look, Bard, don't hang up. Bard, stop. Bard, stop. Don't hang up. Let me school you, however. The lie of capitalism and printing of money creating stuff. Let's go to Dr. Richard Wolff and start to understand how money really works. Money is simply the faith that you have in that currency. That money is backed by gold means nothing. You can't eat gold. So when Nixon took us off of a gold standard that falsely kept down the money supply, he did the right thing. Money is simply a temporary place to hold value. In other words, if you are selling rice and I'm selling oil, and I don't need oil and you don't need rice, but what we can do is we can use the dollar as a holding place. In other words, I can buy potatoes and get money for that potato. And when I need oil, I can then exchange the money that I got for the potato into oil. Okay. Now here is the deal that people need to understand. Everybody that's listening to me here, it's a fallacy that just printing money creates inflation. We have been printing money like blind bats out of hell to fight the Iraq war. We have been printing money like hell to fight all these wars. And notice the capitalists didn't say anything, but we were constantly printing money to go ahead and buy the bombs and all these other things. The capitalists said nothing, right? But if we say we need to print money to give health care, oh, it's going to cause inflation. Let me tell you the truth of the matter. You only get inflation if there is scarcity. Okay? And what happened when we printed a lot of money for the pandemic because people couldn't work, but we still wanted to keep the economy grinding to buy potatoes and milk, etc. So the only conduit to get those exchanges, something to feed you, was to give you money so you could go to the store and get the product, because it's an exchange mechanism. The only way you get inflation is if somehow you don't create enough eggs, if somehow you don't create enough cows. We never had a cow shortage. We never had an oil shortage. We always had enough to go around. So there was no inflation. And you know who knew that? All the Republicans back in the days they were printing money for wars understood that. They didn't tell you that because they knew if you knew that, they would understand that we could have Medicare for all. We could have all these things paid for because of the way an economic system runs. Remember, an economic system is not divine. It is created by us all. And money is simply a temporary hold on products and services. Now, when you have pricing power, which is what corporations have, they can charge anything as long as they know somebody has the cash to buy it. And that's what corporations did when they knew you were sitting on cash from the money that you got from the government, from the whatever that is called, when you got that incentive from the government, that $1,300 from the government, and that money that you got every month from the government during the pandemic. Corporations knew that you had that money, and what they said is, we will raise prices high enough to take that money away from you. So what Bard said initially, that yes, it is true, inflation is the inflation stimulus. Thank you very much, Howard. Inflation is the tax on the poor man. He's absolutely right. But what causes inflation? If you don't have shortages, it's the evil of corporations saying, I'm going to take everything away from you. And that lesson, Bard, you need to learn and stop buying the right wing and capitalist crap. They've been fooling us for decades, for centuries. And until we understand real economics and have somebody bold enough to teach us real economics, we will keep saying the stupidity that somehow printing money creates inflation. That's the biggest bunk there is. Let's go to Edward. Come on in, Edward.
There. Hi, how
yes,
are
sir.
you?
Good. You got 30 seconds, sir. I'm running close on time.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely wrong on that. The only way that there is inflation is printing money, and I can explain to you the mechanism. Inflation has always been a monetary phenomenon, and it is caused by fiat currency being printed into oblivion. Period. That's it. I mean,
you didn't, sir. That's a first of all, sir. I'm not going to let you mislead Americans. You're not going to come on my show and mislead Americans. That's a lie. That's a lie.
No,
it's a lie.
It
is a lie, sir. I ask you the mechanism. How does a dollar, sir? Wait, we can't speak at the same time, sir. So stop. We cannot speak at the same time.
Interrupted me. I called.
No. I told. And it's my show, and I tell you when to stop, sir. Stop. Hang up. I don't hang up on people, but until we get respect out of the person calling into a show, that's not what we take, sir. Do you want to listen and then talk or not?
And you're not.
And I said your mechanism was wrong. Sir, hang up. Let's go to Jacob. Come on in, Jacob. I don't normally do this, but I'm not going to let somebody lie to the audience. Come on in, Jacob.
Right. All right. Hey, I know you run out of time. Real quick, Roberto, and shout out to Moses. Yeah, we are the chosen people. We are the so-called, what she said, tribe of Judah, out of 12 sons of Israel, of Jacob. All right. Well, the dollar bill is like monopoly money. It's really paper. In '73, when Nixon did take it out, gold from backing it up. One thing about gold and silver, it's tangible. It never loses value on that level. The dollar is just paper. It's massage. You can't.
Jacob, I understand that. Jacob, why is gold more valuable than paper?
Why is it? Because one thing about gold, you need it for wires. It's tangible, like for electricity. It's a great conductor.
Yes, it is. Sir, you're correct. Sir, you're correct. But I got to go fast. But let me ask you this, Jacob, because I need you to understand. I tell you what. I would like Edward to call back tomorrow when he's willing to have a bi-directional conversation. When I ask somebody to stop after they've made a statement, the reason I ask them to stop is so I can interject and then they can respond again. That is how we can have a bi-directional conversation. After you've made a statement, I ask you to stop, I make mine, and then you make yours. Jacob, I want to talk about this tomorrow because it's an important subject. When he talked, the nonsense that he spoke before, and what you're saying, I'd like to explore that in the proper fashion. Let's talk about that tomorrow, okay?
All right, man. All right.
Thank you, brother. Let's go to Harry. Come on in, Harry. You got a minute.
Right. I'll just comment on, you have the debt ceiling. Mike Johnson they're trying to negotiate, the Republicans and Democrats in the House, for the debt ceiling, and that's printing money. The Federal Reserve has to print money, and so the government can pay its bills that they have to pay. So you don't have to have something behind it, as you said earlier. I wanted to talk about the conversation you had with Brian, but I don't have much time to do that. So I'm gonna, yesterday when you were talking about your friend and yourself with that software company, I wanted to point out something there. I will say this. The movie Falling Down, there's a scene in there where there was a black man who couldn't get a loan because he wasn't economically viable. And that's what happened to you, Egberto, when you were talking about that, explaining that. You had your resume, you filled out all the paperwork, and they wouldn't give you the $40,000 loan.
There you go.
Your wife, he was able to get the $40,000 loan because he was economically viable. And as that actor pointed that out with the white man that came out of that bank, he said,
Harry,
loan work today.
Got to go, brother. Thank you. We'll talk tomorrow. We'll talk tomorrow, Harry. Let's go to Rick. Come on in real quick, Rick. 1 minute.
Yes, sir. I'll make it real quick. You can't have a gold or silver backed money because there's not enough gold and silver to back the growth that the world economy makes.
You know something? You're a genius. Wait, Rick, don't go yet. I gave you a minute and you only said it in 15 seconds. Okay, let me tell you something. Thank you for that very intelligent, smart comment that capitalists don't want you to know. What you just said is important. Nixon realized it. Cheney realized it. Bush realized it. That's why they could have these infinite wars and still have it paid for. I mean, they understand it, and they keep the average American person not very informed. You just did a hell of a job with 15 seconds. Thank you so kindly.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
All right, have a great one. Let's go to Brian. Come on in, Brian.
Yeah, back in World War II, about 9 million M1 Garands were produced, but only about 200,000 Ivory Johnsons. How much is an Ivory Johnson right now? I know you don't know this.
No. I know what you're talking about. It's because of the increase. One has more of them, so the implicit value is less. That is not what we're talking about here. Remember,
That's
I said
exactly what
money.
The dollar is.
Money is a holding, transitional thing. But we'll talk about that tomorrow, Brian. I knew exactly where you're getting.
Do you really believe what you said? Do you really believe what you just said?
It's not about believing what I said. What I said was fact, but we'll talk about it tomorrow. I got to go. Let's jump to the studio.
Well, not a whole lot here. A very active conversation, of course. Now, Jack, you've got something, some observations. Go ahead.
Yes, I want to send out a word of respect for the people, the New York City firefighters, the people who worked on the pile up there, and all of their families. I want to send you a blessing.
Never forget.
Oh, never forget. And I'm so sorry. I didn't even mention that. The truth of the matter is, I didn't even. You always have our backs, Jack. Thank you very much for reminding that. Let's honor all those who lost their lives to that terrorist attack on 23 years ago today. It's a sad thing. Let's make sure this never happens again. All the callers, love you all, and I mean that from the depths of my heart. Edward, I want you to call back. Look, when we're talking and I say to stop at a phrase, please do so. We can have a bi-directional conversation. I am actually the quarterback in this program that everybody has equal value, but you always have to have some directionality. Please call back again. I'm willing to speak to you and give you your airtime in pieces as we speak. Anyway, I got to get out of here. Love you all. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter is where we have the product. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out. Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It. As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.